Look at me, look how busy I am. I'm inventing a new spice.
Not every food product is the result of a thorough R&D department. You would be surprised how many foods were not created on purpose. Whether it be trial and error or happy mishaps, here are 10 foods that were invented by accident, part 2.
Over and over again I say, we don't make mistakes, we have happy accidents.
Nashville Hot Chicken.
Guys, we are going to Nashville.
Along with Nashville's Country Music Hall of Fame and the Grand Ole Opry, Nashville Hot Chicken is an attraction. This dish was originally concocted as a revenge dish about 80 years ago. What is a revenge dish? Haven't you heard the saying, revenge is a dish best served cold? Well, actually, in the case of Nashville Hot Chicken, revenge was served and spiced on a dish meant to be as hot as it possibly could.
You burn your mouth? Cannot feel my tongue.
It was given to a guy named Thornton Prince by one of his girlfriends. We say one of because he was known to be a womanizer. Upon returning home late one evening, again, his girlfriend decided for breakfast to serve him up the spiciest hot chicken she could make in order to punish him for his wrongdoings. However, her attempt at getting back at him backfired. Thornton loved the food. Apparently, he was such a fan that he opened up a restaurant called Barbecue Chicken Shack. Evidently, in her attempt at punishing her boyfriend through his taste buds, she inadvertently gave him a life-changing idea. We hope she got some compensation for it. Thornton's restaurant went on to do very, very well. You cannot go to Nashville without trying a piece of hot chicken.
Now I can finally complete my bucket list.
Saccharin.
Daddy, have a saccharin or nothing.
Before we start discussing how and why saccharin came about by accident, why don't we go over what it is? Saccharin is an artificial sweetener, and it is 300 to 400 times as sweet as sucrose, more commonly known as regular sugar. It is primarily used in sweetened colas and sweet treats. Its most common form in the US is Sweet and Low. It was produced in 1879 in a laboratory at Johns Hopkins University by Konstantin Fallberg. What happened was this. He left his lab one evening after working on the compound benzoic sulfamide, and as he did this, he noticed that his hand tasted sweet. Immediately recognizing the potential of this discovery, Fallberg sought the patent for the compound and began preparing it for market. He started factories. He began to sell the compound as saccharin. Eventually, he grew wealthy.
Oh, I'm rich. I'm rich. Oh!
When the First World War came around, the price of sugar skyrocketed. This was a perfect opportunity for saccharin to take over the market, and it did. Its popularity grew and grew. This increase continued all the way into the 1960s and 70s when low-calorie sweeteners were all the rage.
I prefer sugar-free, artificial sweeteners made by man.
Cheese Puffs.
You ready for cheese puffs and champagne?
Cheese Puffs were a total accident. They came into being when a company that was making animal feed with strings of puffed corn oozing from their flaking machines. These long puffs were eventually experimented with and turned into a snack.
Greatest invention ever to benefit mankind.
It was as easy as that. That being said, bringing a new item to market is not as easy as all that. Anyone who has watched Shark Tank knows that. Imagining the leftover stringy pieces coming out of the animal feed flaking machine is one thing, but holding a patent, marketing, and earning a profit is a whole other ballgame. Cheese Puffs underwent numerous names, patent holders, and corporations. They did not come to market simply, but all in all, that is all right, because now we have Cheese Puffs,
which is totally awesome.
Chimichangas.
This is a chimichanga.
You are becoming a chimichanga!
When you look up chimichanga definition on Google, it says a chimichanga is a tortilla wrapped around a filling, typically meat, and deep fried. When you look at this definition, you may think to yourself, well, that is just a burrito that has been deep fried. In fact, yes, a chimichanga is just a deep fried burrito. There are several possible origin stories for this one, but a prevailing possibility is that it was invented by Woody Johnson in 1946. What happened is he put a few burritos in a deep fryer as an experiment. He then served his creation as fried burritos at his restaurant in Phoenix, Arizona. They became very popular.
Oh my gosh, you guys, these are so good!
In 1952, the restaurant changed its name, and so did the fried burrito. Suddenly, Woody Johnson was working at Nachos and serving a chimichanga. Bam! The chimichanga was invented and loved.
Time to make the chimichangas.
Brandy.
When I found you, you were so slobbering drunk you couldn't buy brandy!
Back in the early 16th century, wine consumption was through the roof. Wine was being transported from continent to continent, usually by ship, and making a few people a lot of money. One clever Dutchman figured out a way to make more room for his wine on his ship, increasing the amount he was able to carry, and therefore the amount he could sell and the money he could make. Hooray for efficiency and putting your best foot forward. This gentleman's secret way was to remove some of the water from his wine through distillation, and then add the water the wine needed once he arrived at the port he desired.
How do they come up with this stuff?
So his wine was basically less volume because it was missing water. What he accidentally discovered was that the wines actually appreciated in the casks over time. Without the water, their compounds changed and it began to taste like what we know brandy to be today. You just never know what you will find when you begin to play with and alter compounds, hopefully safely.
If you follow the rules, it will be a safe one.
Cornflakes.
Would you like some cornflakes? They're heavenly.
Cornflakes were created in 1894 by John Harvey Kellogg. John was superintendent of the Battle Creek Sanitarium and a Seventh-day Adventist. The Adventist Church proposed a strictly vegetarian diet. Kellogg and the church believed that bland foods would be better for mankind, and his patients in particular, because supposedly spicy and interesting foods would increase one's passionate desires, so to speak.
That's crazy. That's crazy talk!
So he was experimenting on bland diet options with his brother, Will Keith Kellogg. One day, they had been cooking some wheat on the stove when matters stole their attention away from the task. They must have been gone quite a while, because when they returned, the wheat had gone stale. They did not want to throw away the food, so they continued their process of pushing it through rollers to obtain a dough, and much to their surprise, they got dry flakes instead. The brothers decided to toast these flakes and serve them to the patients. And that is how cornflake cereal came to be.
And I'm grateful for that.
Popsicles.
Popsicles? Fill your gaping mouth with a popsicle!
Not only was this next item on our list invented completely by accident, but it was also invented by a kid. That's right, an 11-year-old boy invented the popsicle.
Is that really true?
It is true.
This young man's name was Frank Epperson, and he was from San Francisco. He was born in 1894, and like most children of his time, enjoyed treating himself to sodas. Back then, it was popular to mix soda powder with water to get a soda, just like when you used to make Kool-Aid when you were a kid. When you made Kool-Aid, you probably used a spoon. Well, when Frank Epperson made his soda, he did not use a spoon, but a stirring stick. This little detail was crucial to the invention of the popsicle, as you can imagine. One winter evening, Frank Epperson made his soda, however, he forgot it outside. Quite a chill crept up on San Francisco that evening, and the drink froze. When he found it the next morning, there it was, a solid piece of soda on a stick.
I'm a genius!
18 years later, he acquired the patent for frozen ice on a stick and branded it the Epsicle. So how did the name change from Epsicle to Popsicle? It was Frank Epperson's kids who took to calling it Popsicle, and the rest is history. Nachos.
I'm about to eat nachos! It's the greatest moment of my life!
Nachos. Most people love them. But how and where did this now infamous snack begin? Let's go back to August 15th, 1895. On this day, baby Ignacio Anaya was born. Little baby Ignacio would grow up to be Chef Ignacio Nacho Anaya at the Victory Club in Piedras Negras, Mexico. Those who know their geography will know that this Mexican spot is just across the border from Eagle Pass, Texas.
No, yeah, I knew that.
One day, when working at the Victory Club, a group of women from the Eagle Pass Army Airfield arrived. However, the restaurant was already closing for the night and ingredients were limited. But the ingenious Ignacio Nacho Anaya did not fear, he created. He cut up some tortillas into triangles, sprinkled them with cheese and jalapeno peppers, and then heated them quickly to melt the cheese. The dish was a smashing hit and would continue to be served at the restaurant as Nachos Especiales.
I gotta say, I am really enjoying nacho chip.
Beer.
Want beer? Like beer. Beer, good.
Apparently, beer is one of the oldest known drinks made by humans. There are beverages on the planet that do not necessarily require any human intervention. However, a drink like beer needs to be produced. Beer dates back to roughly 3400 BCE.
That's so old.
Archaeologists have been able to make these claims due to ceramic pots that were excavated and dated, which contained a sticky, beer-like residue. The most interesting thing is that pots with beer residue have been found in numerous places all over the world. The assumption is that beer was independently produced by numerous tribes and cultures. Some specialists believe beer was created by accident by wild yeasts in the air, landing in pots and fermenting the drinks. Beer, and the eventual conscious fermentation of it, is one of the things that show humanity's ability to develop technology. Essentially, the accidental invention of beer helped to push civilizations forward. Pretty darn neat.
Let's go get a beer.
Really?
A beer sounds incredible right now.
Champagne.
Nectar of the gods, my dear.
Champagne rocks. It is a glorious creation that is now synonymous with living a good life. Champagne is a drink for celebrations. Some may think it is demonstrative of wealth, since real champagne can be pricey, but other types of sparkling wine can be much more affordable.
That's helpful, because I don't have a lot of money.
And if you like the taste of bubbles, then you should not have to wait until New Year's Eve or an anniversary to pop a bottle open. A Benedictine monk named Dom Perignon is credited with the invention of this sparkling wine in the 1600s. And while he did have an important role to play, the actual origin story of this drink took many people and many years. Champagne, as we now know it, was created by accident. You see, the area Champagne in France was having some trouble with the wine they were making. The wine fermentation process would stop prematurely once temperatures dropped and then would restart in warmer weather once the dormant yeast woke back up and began fermenting again.
It's fermenting down there, just fermenting. Okay?
This would cause a drastic increase in pressure in the bottles, often making them explode. Much has been changed, modified, and perfected in the process of making a good sparkling wine, and all thanks to an explosively good accident. Why wait for more great BabbleTop videos? Just tap that screen. And if it's your first time here, show us some love and pound that subscribe button and knock that bell to join our notification squad.